On a warm March night in 1989, the border town of Matamoros seemed steeped in sun and laughter. Spring break, booze, bars, the kind of night any 21-year-old student might remember forever. But for one young man, it would be the last night of innocence. His name was Mark James Kilroy, and the darkness he wandered into was far deeper, far older than he ever imagined.
15 mutilated bodies were found at a ranch outside Matamoros, Mexico, where Mark Kilroy disappeared in March. News of the slayings and now the gang's violent end have left the border town stunned. Mexican police suspect the gang may be responsible for other murders dating back perhaps 2 years, and the sheriff in Brownsville fears there may have been victims on his side of the border. People on both sides only hope this gang's violence is over.
Mark Kilroy was born in Chicago on March 5, 1968, raised in Texas, a promising pre-med student at the University of Texas at Austin. He traveled for spring break to South Padre Island and made the short walk into Matamoros for the bars. On March 14th, he disappeared. His goop celebrated into the night. Many returned across the bridge to Texas. Mark did not. His friends assumed he'd simply gone back ahead. They waited, but by morning, he was gone. What began as a likely missing person case quickly became something else, because Mark was not just another kid lost in the night. His uncle worked for U.S. Customs. His family did not accept silence. The investigation crossed borders. March 14, 1989. Mark Kilroy walked through the streets of Matamoros, unaware of the danger following him. Witnesses later reported seeing a man tailing him from a bar. When Mark disappeared, no one could have imagined the horror that awaited him. He was taken swiftly and quietly, carried across the city, far from the lights, far from safety. He arrived at Rancho Santa Elena, a secluded property that would become the stage of his last hours. Inside, the air was heavy with incense and candles. Shadows flickered over the walls. Constanzo and his inner circle waited, calm, precise. The cult treated Mark not as a human being, but as a vessel, a living component of a ritual designed to protect and empower them. According to investigators, Mark was restrained, bound, and held in a small shack on the ranch. Every movement, every step, was dictated by the cult's ritual. Confirmed forensic evidence shows that Mark's legs were severed above the knees, a measure designed to make burial easier. A wire was threaded through his spinal column so that after decomposition the bones could be extracted. Some reports indicate for use in charms or protective talismans. Authorities also found evidence that his brain had been removed and placed in a ritual cauldron, alongside animal remains, turtle shells, chicken feet, and coins. These were used in the cult's Nganda, a ceremonial pot believed to concentrate spiritual power. To understand what happened to Mark, we must understand the man who made it possible, Adolfo de Jesus Constanzo. Born November 1st, 1962, in Miami to Cuban refugee parents, Constanzo grew up with two worlds: Catholic ceremonies and Afro-Caribbean ritual traditions. In his teens, he apprenticed himself to a palero, a practitioner of Palo Mayombe, a religion with roots in West Africa and Cuba's slave traditions. By the early 1980s, he had begun offering protection rituals to the Miami underworld. Charms, incantations, spells. "You'll be invisible to the police," he promised. And for many traffickers who lived in constant fear, that was enough. But Constanzo's ambition would not stop at charms. He soon moved to Mexico City, recruited disciples like Martin Quintana and Omar Orea, and began mixing drugs, money, and ritual. He went beyond grave robbing. He soon believed that living victims made the magic stronger. By 1987, his gang was smuggling large quantities of marijuana, and killing those who crossed them. The bodies turned up missing organs, missing spines, parts used in what he believed were mystical cauldrons called nangas. In Matamoros, the traffickers of the Hernandez family engaged him. They wanted his magic. He wanted their territory. And to seal the deal, he moved operations to a ranch outside Matamoros, Rancho Santa Elena. For Mark Kilroy, a night of spring break fun became a nightmare of confinement, ritual, and death. In the hands of a man who claimed mystical power, he was transformed from a visitor into a ritual victim. The crime was not merely a murder, it was a chilling, ceremonial act, one that continues to haunt investigators, historians, and the family of the young man who vanished that March night. On April 11, 1989, investigators returned to Rancho Santa Elena. Forensic teams began a meticulous excavation of the property. Shallow graves, deliberately concealed, revealed the remains of more than a dozen victims, including Mark Kilroy. Authorities documented the evidence: severed limbs, human bones threaded with wire, remains placed in ritual cauldrons. It was a calculated, ceremonial massacre, a horrifying testament to the cult's ideology. Adolfo Constanzo, aware the authorities were closing in, fled Mexico City. He was on the run with a small group of loyal followers, including Sara Aldrete. On May 6, 1989, police surrounded Constanzo and his remaining disciples in a small apartment. According to multiple reports, rather than be captured, Constanzo ordered one of his followers to shoot him. He died instantly. The cult's figurehead, the man at the center of so many rituals, so many deaths, was gone, leaving behind chaos, fear, and unanswered questions. In the weeks and months that followed, authorities arrested the remaining cult members.
Today, investigators from South Texas spent a second day in Mexico City. They're trading information with the Mexican authorities who cornered the alleged drug-smuggling gang members at this apartment building Saturday. Witnesses say the fugitives started throwing money from the windows as police surrounded the place. Captured suspects say as the shooting began, leader Adolfo de Jesus Constanzo ordered his own death and that of his closest companion at the gun of fellow gang member Alvaro de Leon Valdez. Mexican authorities identified the dead men, but now a DEA official wants fingerprint verification from Constanzo's hometown of Miami. Sunday, the cult's alleged priestess denied taking part in sacrificial murders and apologized to the parents of slain Santa Fe College student Mark Kilroy.
I'm sorry. If I wouldn't know that it was like this, I wouldn't be in it.
In the weeks and months that followed, authorities arrested the remaining cult members. Sara Aldrete, known as La Madrina, faced charges of murder and conspiracy. She was sentenced to decades in prison. Other members received lengthy sentences. Court testimony detailed the gruesome rituals, the abductions, and the chilling beliefs that had guided the cult for years. Families of victims finally had some answers, but the scars would last a lifetime. While investigators confirmed at least 15 victims, the full number may never be known. Constanzo's operations stretched across Mexico and possibly into the United States. Witnesses and former cult members reported additional abductions and killings. Some bodies never recovered. The methods were consistent. Young men or traffickers abducted, ritually killed, and placed in shallow graves or ceremonial cauldrons. Mark Kilroy's case is the most documented, but it is chilling to consider the lives lost that were never recorded, names never spoken, and stories never told. The murder of Mark Kilroy reshaped cross-border law enforcement. It forced cooperation between U.S. and Mexican authorities and raised awareness of the hidden intersection between organized crime and ritualistic violence. The ranch was abandoned, reclaimed by desert weeds. The mangas and implements, now evidence, stood as silent witnesses to unimaginable acts. Evil often hides behind belief, behind charisma, behind a promise of protection. But in reality, it is fear, dressed as faith, and cruelty, dressed as ritual. Mark Kilroy's disappearance and death remain a stark reminder that darkness can walk among the unsuspecting. single mite can forever change the course of life. His story and those of the others lost to Rancho Santa Elena will never be forgotten.